let's go ahead and dive into it. I want to break it down half by half. So we're going to start with the first half. I know we talked about some things, but let's get specific about the first half. Obviously, at the break, Clemson was winning this game 10-3. We all know what happened in the end, but they were winning at halftime 10-3. Clemson got 4 total offensive drives. Well, 5 if you count the taking a knee at the end with 5 seconds to go or whatever in the half after Clemson's defense makes that stand. But they get 4 total offensive drives in the first half. That first drive was terrible. It was a 3-and-out, tip pass, like a 2-yard run, and then a sack. Not a great start. Not a great start at all. After LSU kind of drove on their first drive, ultimately having to punt. But they did get some production on their first drive. Clemson goes 3-and-out. Second drive of the game, Clemson's defense goes out there. LSU turns the ball over. Great play by who forced that turnover?
It was Avion Terrell.
Avion Terrell forced the turnover.
On Bower Sharp.
Yeah, Avion Terrell forced the turnover. Clemson takes over in plus territory. You got to punch the ball in at that point in time. And that's when I knew those 2 drives kind of told me Clemson's offense is going to struggle today. This is going to be one of those games where we're going to have to lean heavy on the defense and hope the offense can come up with enough plays to win this game. Because how you come out of that with only 3 points, that was a win for LSU, really, at that point in time in the game. That was a win for LSU. Clemson could not move the ball. Even in plus territory, could not move the ball. Nolan Hooser goes ahead and knocks through the field goal to make it 3-0. And then LSU takes over. They get on their third drive, Wade Woodaz pass interference. But one of the things that I keyed in talking about the defense is they really struggled in the rushing game. Running defense is still a problem for Clemson, I think. And they did a lot better tonight, but they still got gashed far too often tonight. They are improved. I do believe they are improved. But they still got gashed far too often. And then drive 3 for Clemson went a little bit better. But again, offensive line not protecting Cade. We finally got our first down in that third drive of the game. Blake Miller comes with a false start that really, stifled that drive. The one time we saw Gideon Davison in the game, he kind of missed that block. They got that run play blown up. And that drive ends in a punt. And then Clemson's best drive of the night came on the 4th drive right before halftime. And they put together a pretty good drive ending in that Adam Randall second effort touchdown run on 4th and goal. And, that's how the score got 10-3. But your thoughts at halftime, as you were in the stadium and you saw the first half unfold, it was obviously a defensive battle. Clemson forced a turnover on LSU's second drive. They forced a turnover on LSU's final drive of the half, and Clemson just took a knee on it. But they stood tall. LSU was driving. They were in Clemson territory. They come up with that turnover, and that stopped LSU's hope of getting any points heading into half. So the half ends 10-3. What was the atmosphere in the stadium like, and what were your thoughts on just kind of the performance of the offense and defense overall heading into halftime?
Yeah, I mean, on those 4th down stop, on the turnovers, but especially on that 4th down stop, I mean, the stadium, it felt like the stadium exploded. It was pretty special. But just the first half in general, I mean, I felt like both teams were kind of feeling each other out. I mean, I didn't have too much to say about it. I certainly didn't like the 3-and-outs early and the sacks. but I thought there was going to be a point where this team settled in, and they got to, they got hit a couple times. They see what LSU is doing, and then they kind of settle in a little bit. The moment has kind of, it's kind of set in, and they would have played a lot better. But that just, of course, we know in the second half that never happened. But I thought that touchdown drive, it was gritty. They had to convert a couple of difficult third downs. That was easily the best drive of the night. Of course, it was the one that ended in a touchdown, so of course I'd say that. But I just think that was the best they did in terms of getting Cade on the move, creating some opportunities across the middle for the receivers. That was a pretty good game plan, despite the kind of the timidness. So the first half, I certainly had my concerns, because it was like, okay, maybe, but when they scored that touchdown drive, I felt okay. They saw the ball go through the hoop, and they're gonna be locked in and settled in, and be able to move the ball more consistently in the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had some momentum going into halftime, really. You talk about that fourth Clemson drive that, resulted in a Adam Randall rushing touchdown. And then the defense gets that big stand, causes that fumble on fourth down for LSU in Clemson territory. They were trying to go score a touchdown to tie the game up. And Clemson's defense steps up big, and, Clemson's offense coming back out, takes a knee, goes to halftime. So Clemson was really, they really had some momentum going into halftime. You had your best drive of the game to end the half, and then your defense made a big stand and caused a turnover, and you go into halftime and you're feeling pretty good. You're like, all right, maybe we figured something out in that drive, and we can build on that, and we can make some adjustments and figure out what LSU is doing to limit our offense. And you come out from halftime, and Clemson gets the ball first. And we talked about it, but OPH, Olsen Pat Henry, had that great catch across the middle. Cade threw it way too high, but he made an amazing catch. He got hit. He held on to the ball. And then I can't remember who made another catch over along the sideline, Bryant Wesco, where they originally called it not a catch. That got overruled. And then that result, or that drive kind of fizzles out a little bit. And Nolan Huser misses a field goal that he definitely should have made. But again, the drive kind of fizzled out. You didn't make the field goal. And then LSU in that second half, their offense, they kind of found something early in that second half. That third quarter was probably about as bad as it could be for Clemson, both offensively and really defensively too, because, they came out and scored a touchdown, a field goal right off the rip. So, that was just, they kind of started seeing some things go right. They finally got the lead, and that was it. Once they got the lead, Clemson's offense just could not muster anything else in the second half. Cade Klubnik comes out the very next drive, throws an interception. A 3-and-out, I think, on the 8th drive of the game for Clemson. They punted the ball, and then a turnover on downs. They were in LSU territory, went for it on fourth down, didn't make it. And then they punted the ball on the 10th drive. Clemson's defense goes and gets yet another stop of that LSU offense to give Clemson one last shot in the game in the fourth quarter. Hey, Cade, offense, this is your drive. Go make it happen. You got to go score a touchdown. And they just couldn't make it happen. Clemson's offense just could not find enough plays. The LSU defense, or the LSU pass rush, was relentless all night. It showed up yet again on that final drive for Clemson. Cade Klubnik looked out of sorts sometimes with his decision-making. The pressure was obviously getting to him, and it just, it ends in an incomplete pass on fourth down. After you had a timeout, after you had a chance to talk about it over and over again and find your play, and they just couldn't do it. They did move the ball down the field on that final drive. They did have some positive plays, but overall it fizzled out. That LSU defense makes a final stand, and that's how we get to Clemson 10, LSU 17, and the game is over. So, I mean,
I was unmuted. My fault.
No, you're good.
It was. I mean that third quarter. I mean, as you mentioned, it was a lot of. I mean that was about as bad as it could have gone. I mean, you start out at half with the ball and momentum, and you drive and you miss a field goal. I mean, you could feel kind of the life kind of exit from that offense. I mean, that's kind of where the turning point, for this team was. I think in a lot of respects, because it just they didn't have that fire for for that second half, and of course, with everything else, that was compounding it. The play calling and the struggles on the offensive line, all the pressures that they were dealing with, like it was to the point where that was the result you got, and the game just kind of took on a completely different complexion in one quarter, and you were the team that looked out of sorts and had no answers. So it was disappointing. It's like I said, I thought that after that first half, after that touchdown drive, I thought they had settled in, and I thought they would produce more drives and get some more points on the board. And it just never happened.
Yeah, it never happened. LSU in that third quarter, scoring on two of their first three drives, scoring two touchdowns. They missed that one field goal, and kind of that was kind of the end of the game. And as a Clemson fan watching it, I never really felt that Clemson was going to get enough offense going. I did have some hope on that final drive, and especially when Clemson hit a few plays there, some big passing plays by Cade Klubnik and the wide receiving core. But ultimately, it just wasn't enough. And on some of those, in particular that sixth drive for LSU, the pass interference by Hampton, Ashton Hampton, gave him a second chance, gave it first and goal again, and obviously they scored that touchdown there. There was some big pass interference penalties by Ashton Hampton that gave LSU second opportunities to go get points. So, but at the end of the day, I think Clemson overall defensive-wise, their tackling was better. Now, there were some missed tackles. Wade Woodaz started the game with a missed tackle and had at least another one in the game that I noticed. There was a pretty big missed tackle. But overall, I think the tackling was better for Clemson. Still getting gashed too much on the running game for Clemson defense. You got to clean some of that up. But again, like me and you said earlier, Jordan, if you hold LSU's offense to 17 points, you got to win that game. Your offense has to go out there and produce more than 17 points. When you hold an offense that is, as explosive as we think LSU's offense is going to be this year, when you're able to hold them to 17 points, you got to win that game, especially when you're at home, especially when you're in Death Valley, especially when it's a night game, and you have the atmosphere around you that you had. I just thought that Clemson's offense would put a better product on the field today, but they didn't. Clemson's got major issues right now as it stands. I know it's week one. We're not going to overreact, but right now, coming out of this game, major question mark for me on the offensive side of the ball for Clemson. Offensive line. They couldn't pass block or run block tonight. Now, maybe that just means LSU's defensive line and front seven are just that good. That could be. We don't know. It's only one game in. All we have it to compare it to is these two teams facing each other. Whatever was said in the offseason really doesn't matter at this point. But Clemson's offensive line, big question mark. Awful game tonight. Cade Klubnik, not a good night. Not a good night throwing the football. Not a good night decision making. He's got to be better. That's your senior quarterback. That's the leader of your team. He's got to be better. The wide receivers, although they had some really good plays tonight and some really good catches, they also had quite a few drops tonight. So you got to clean that up. But shout out to the defense for producing some turnovers for the Tigers. I think they fought their butts off tonight. They were on the field for 14 more minutes than LSU's defense. I feel fairly good about where they are, but they need to improve. That pass rush tonight, brother, you got to get to Garrett Nussmeier more than that. I think we had one sack tonight. I think it was Will Help with the only sack tonight.
Yeah.
Garrett Nussmeier extended plays just enough, kept his eyes downfield, and hurt Clemson's defense when they let him get outside the pocket and create. So that's just kind of my, overall thoughts on the game. It was a tough loss, man. This sucks. I hate getting on here and doing this. But again, like we said, going in predicting, I predicted 31-28. You predicted 34-27. It wasn't how either of us saw it. Even though Clemson lost, still in the scoring department, it wasn't like either of us saw it. It was far more of a defensive game than we anticipated. And Clemson's offense just didn't have a good night, man. So it's a tough loss. But you got to move on and hopefully you improve throughout the season.
Yep. You gotta pick yourself up off the mat. I mean, that's all the cliches that you talk about with losses like these. You gotta see how they respond. I don't know about this team. I don't know if this is going to bleed over into next week or not. I really don't know. It just, like I said, it doesn't currently. It doesn't define your season, but it could if you let this game, be what you're going to be for the rest of the season. Because if this is the team that shows up the rest of the season, you're not beating a couple of at least a few teams.
Yeah.
And that's something that that's got to be cleaned up, and they got to find a way to move on from this and learn from what this performance is. It's one that they certainly expected, that they felt like they should win. They felt like they were in prime position to win, and they didn't get what they needed to on multiple fronts. And that's disappointing. And as a player, it's hard to kind of contend with all that off season of work and the fall camp and this game prep and install and the workouts and all the things that you've done, knowing that this game was coming, and it just doesn't play out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It sucks losing games like this, especially at home. It's never easy losing at home. Used to be far less common than it's becoming, it seems, in the past couple years. But again, Clemson's got to rebound. You got to respond. You got your you got your loss tonight. You got your butt handed to you in your stadium. You played well in some senses, but your offense wasn't good enough. They didn't have any answers. Like we've said in here, and a couple people in the comments have, you were predictable on offense. You don't have a running game right now. See what you can do against Troy next week, but that's really not going to answer the main questions of what we have about this team and what they're going to be this season. Troy will not be able to answer those questions for us. So you just kind of have to turn the page and move on. And congratulations to LSU on your win. You're still not Death Valley. I see everybody in the comment section. I see you LSU fans in here. Appreciate you guys being on the channel. Appreciate you guys getting in the live chat. Welcome you all here. Welcome all the trash talk. But you're still not Death Valley. It doesn't matter. You can beat Clemson, 100-0. You can beat us for every time from now until the end of time, every time we play. And you still won't be Death Valley. Clemson had the name first. And you will always be little brother when it comes to naming your stadium Death Valley. You copied Clemson. I know it makes you mad. I know you think you're a better program than Clemson and you got a better history and you got a better atmosphere. It doesn't matter. Clemson has been and will always be the first and real Death Valley. So, but congratulations on your win. You did walk into our house and beat us. So you do have those bragging rights. And Jordan, I think me and you in the score prediction category, we didn't do so great this week. So I don't know. We'll have to regroup for the Troy score prediction. Try to do a little bit better next week.
Yeah, probably. I already forgot. What was my pick? Was it 34-27, something like that?
You had. Let me look back in my notes. Yeah, you had 34-27. I had 31-28, and we were way off because neither team scored that many points.
Yikes. So, I mean, I guess we didn't give either team's defense enough credit. But
clearly not. We certainly undersold what the defenses would be in this game. But, Clemson finishes the game with 261 total yards. LSU finishes the game with 354 total yards. We won the turnover battle, but that did not matter. Clemson goes down in the valley yet again. We are now on a 4-game losing streak to the SEC, Jordan, and I think a 3-game opener losing streak. Is that correct?
Yep.
Man, we're going to be LSU before long. Good Lord, we're down bad. Maybe we can win the opener next year. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
All right.
That return trip's going to be fun.
You got anything left to add, Jordan?
No, I mean, I'm a little sleepy, so I'm probably a little loopy at this point. But to kind of wrap it up, I mean, this is the result that you didn't want. I mean, you technically can afford to have, but it just for all the narratives, for all the optics, like this was a game that you felt like you had to win, and you didn't, and you got, and especially it did not look the way that, like, if Clemson was going to lose this game, this was not. I did not expect the offense to look this completely inept. I thought, okay, the offense they'll get some points, but maybe the defense hasn't improved to the point where I feel good about them getting stops, and and LSU puts up points. But to get the performance you did from the defense, I mean, you feel like you should have. I mean, if a team scores 17 points and you're at home, the opposing team scores 17 points, and you're at home. I mean, you expect to win that game. I think you should expect to win that game. But they looked like the team that had all the returning talent on defense, and um, you look like the team with the new look offensive line, and replacing a bunch of starters, and that's the disappointing part. It's like it looked like the roles were reversed in a lot of respects. Like if this game was 17-10 in favor of Clemson, and LSU was the one that that couldn't run the football, and they were getting a lot of pressure, like I that would have surprised that wouldn't have surprised me at all. But it just the roles were reversed. You looked like the team that didn't that wasn't that had more unknowns. I guess maybe now that's true.